Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Friday and our regular weekly meeting of the Tacoma-Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness. Missed seeing y'all last Friday. I hope everybody had a good Friday off. And why don't we hand things over to Rosemary to kick us off for this morning? So, Rosemary.
Good morning, everyone. We did take last week off to celebrate Thanksgiving and to give ourselves a little time to rest too. And I wanted just to make a brief connection between Thanksgiving and the open table. Thanksgiving is a complicated holiday for many reasons, not the least of which is the fact that it's often covered over the trauma of Indigenous peoples with a kind of simple narrative, national narrative about strangers sharing meal together. So here we acknowledge that this history, this traumatic history, and also acknowledge with respect that we are meeting on the lands of the traditional homelands of the Puyallup tribe of Indians who have shepherded these lands from time immemorial. The holiday, Thanksgiving, is also complicated by the conflicts that come up at extended family dinners and by who's included or excluded from the table. But there are some signs of openness about this holiday where terms like Friendsgiving and more community meals expand the notion of belonging. And here at the Coalition, we are committed to an open table that invites all who are interested in ending homelessness to join together, even if we have different ideas about how this might happen. We have to keep challenging ourselves to be open, really, to that open table. And so we look forward to having any kinds of critiques of our openness presented so that we can do a better job. So I welcome you today to our open table and just to review a few of our norms that we use in our meetings so that if you're new, you can see how to get involved in the conversation. We ask that we mute ourselves when we're not talking and turn off our video when we're doing other things so we're not distracting. We do encourage people to use the chat as a space for announcements or for conversation. This is not an imposition on the meeting and not a sign of disrespect, but a way for us to do the networking that's not so possible since we're not meeting in person. And if we do want to be recognized to speak, we do have the hand signal that you can use that's with Zoom, or if you don't get recognized, wave your hand about and someone will help Rob to notice that it's time for you to talk. Just to re-emphasize, and I've asked Rob, if you can put the norms in the chat. I don't know if you've done it already, but that's great. So others can review them. And just to mention that as we reflect on ideas today, to understand how we might lead with a racial equity lens, to make sure that we take some space if we have something to say and give space to others, and that we assume best intentions in what we say, but also take responsibility for consequences. So with that, I'd like to welcome anybody who's new today or who's returning after some time away to just announce your presence and raise your hand and be recognized. Or if you don't get recognized, just speak and unmute yourself and introduce yourselves and what organization or project you might be working with. So anybody can start.
Casey? Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I can't figure out, I can't believe I'm telling you this, but where the hand raise thing is on this.
That's fine. That's fine too.
This, but you will tell me, I hope, or just write it in the chat where I find the hand raise thing. I'm on gallery view and I got the chat up. Okay, so I'm Sue Comas and I am never been here, and I just am recently retired, and I spent, trust me, whatever that whole pandemic on Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and all those things. So I can't believe I don't know where the hand raise thing is now, but it's been 2 months since I retired, so I guess I can't remember. And anyway, I just am my profession was a transportation planner, and specifically public transit, but I am passionate about homelessness, and so I just thought I would see what you guys are up to, and maybe in the in the coming year or so, I will be ready to do some volunteer work, you know, beyond the food bank that I already signed up for, but to help it. I don't know where or what, or I don't know anything about it, because like I said, I'm a professional planner, but I'm coming out of a very different, really kind of a different field, except you'd be surprised there's a lot of intersection with public transit and homelessness, as I'm sure you know. But anyway.
Well, thank you, Sue. We welcome you, and you're in a good place to find out some things that are possible. Thank you.
I'll go next. My name is Dua Rahima Williams, and I live over in Spokane. I'm from the King County area. I am the statewide organizer for Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, and I also manage Resident Action Project, AKA RAP. So thank you for letting me be in this space.
Welcome. We're very happy to have you and your background. Thank you. Casey?
Yeah, hi, my name's Casey Walsh, and I work at Comprehensive Life Resources with James Pogue, one of his employees. Work in the Homeless Outreach Department. Graduated from UW with a bachelor's in social welfare. I've always had a passion for individuals experiencing homelessness and have always done a lot of volunteer work around that. So I'm really excited to actually be a part of this meeting and learn some stuff that I haven't heard before. So thank you for having me today.
Welcome, Casey, and thank you for your work.
Yep.
I'll jump in if I could. Good morning, everybody. I'm Rachel Hauser. I am currently with the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department. I'm a community health worker, going to be spending a little bit of time focusing on our homeless response there. I previously had worked as a coordinated entry case manager. So previous experience with direct experience with our folks experiencing homelessness. So I had been able to pop into these meetings here and there in my previous role. So I'm excited to be back in a more consistent fashion at this point. So looking forward to it. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Rachel, and welcome back.
Thank you.
I just want to jump in. Ivan Tudela, I'm the Access and Functional Needs Coordinator with Pierce County Department of Emergency Management. I used to attend these meetings initially about a year and a half on and off throughout the year, but I'm glad to be back and re-engage.
Welcome back, Ivan. It's good to see you. Kristen, you are muted if you were going to say something.
Sorry, I was muted, and I actually couldn't get my volume up earlier, so I'm not sure what has happened up to this point, but I'm Angela Connolly. It probably says Kristen Wynn on there, but I'm Angela
That's
Connolly.
What it says.
And so I've been involved for many, many years, kind of just being in relationship with people experiencing homelessness, starting off when I was 16, being at Nativity House the first Christmas Eve, its first anniversary back in '82, and I actually just feel a real connection and just want to help. So we basically, I was on the task force for the Nativity House, 50 units of permanent housing. We did that for about a year and a half, 2 years, getting that going. That was about 13 years ago. And then when I learned there was nothing actually for underage youth, kind of tried to do, work really hard to organize the community to get an underage youth shelter, which is Coffee Oasis came into town. They agreed to come in from Kitsap County. That was a few years ago. Now it's 12 bed, but most recently started Tacoma Safe to really just kind of cry out and have everyone cry out that we just need a safer city, and we also want to really do what we can do to help what's being done and especially also right now around those experiencing homelessness and the inhumanity of the encampments and how we need shelter. And we especially right now are working on a safe camping site, doing everything we can. And I think that there's actually great hope for an amazing site that could open up shortly. So thank you very much for all that you guys are doing.
Thanks for your work and your presence. So is there anyone else who hasn't introduced themselves that's new or returning? I don't know if you see anyone, Rob. If not, I'll turn it back to you.
I don't at this time. So let's shift to the first standing item on our weekly meetings, and that is to have people offer updates on what they're seeing on the streets this week. So this portion of the meeting is really focused on those who are doing direct interface with those who are homeless. And I think we'll start off with James Pogue from Comprehensive Life with some announcements of new work that CLR is doing.
Yeah, hi everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. For those that don't know me, I am James Pogue, the Executive Director of Homeless Services at Comprehensive Life Resources. And I want to tell a little history story. I swear it'll be short and not too boring, but then to kind of tell you how I got here to this moment and what we're proposing to do. But the 2018, before the coalition was how the coalition is now, there was a group of providers that met every Friday or every other Friday to work on the encampment under the 705 overpass behind Brown and Haley that was nicknamed the Jungle, which was partly taken the jungle language from what was happening in King County. But I didn't like that because we had to continually remind people that we're different and it's a separate issue, and either way, pet peeve. But what we did at that time is we all got together and we talked about the work that we were doing. Who's working with tent number 1? Who has this problem? Does somebody have a wheelchair? This person wants to go to inpatient treatment. How do we get Glenn Kelly from Multicare to come down? We used to meet at the top of the Nativity House where we would beg, at that time, Melissa Moss for exceptions and extra rooms and storage. And can we come and bring people to take showers, but they don't want to stay there, kind of thing. And we worked with the city in tandem with their timeline. They were looking, actually Colin DeForest, who attends this regularly, was at the city at that time, and they were looking to do the camp sweep. And it was a complex property. It was Department of Transportation property and city property and a couple other areas. And they were very gracious, the City of Tacoma and Department of Transportation, to continually push their timeline, and ended up giving us almost 4 full months to be down there before they just couldn't wait any longer. And we were able to take about 80 or so folks and find housing for 20 of them, like from that spot. And then unfortunately, the other 60 ended up being relocated right around May of 2018, or 2017, which led to the declaration of the state of emergency and some other things. But that same group kept meeting every Friday, and we used to call this group the providers meeting, specifically because we were asking the providers who were working down at the original stability site to meet to do exactly that again. We had 90 campers, and we just needed to talk about each person's needs, or at least each agency's needs. And so that again led to a lot of, if you were part of the first email chains, you remember that it was a comp address. It didn't have any filters, and most of it was, hey, camper 18 needs a wheelchair. Hey, camper 19 needs a drive up to the health department. And that's something we did very well, and we were able to retake that model again when we had some emergencies with the Tiki apartments for those that were here, and the Merkel apartments, and then 2019 with the park up on THA's property, People's Park. We all kind of rallied around same idea. If you were part of the providers, we had a special little time. We were not talking about the macro system. We were talking about this campsite, these campers' needs, and we were sharing as much data as we could, which also has limitations, but at least people would say, oh, CMAR is working with that camper. They got a plan. Let CMAR do it. And if CMAR needs help, CMAR will call us. And so we were able to coordinate, divvy the work up, and actually get some better outcomes. And we were just on the verge of planning to do this in January at Comp, to come back to the coalition and say, hey, we want to pick kind of our mobile clinic model, which I'm going to introduce in a few seconds, and see if we can rally troops around us to work with all of these awesome, amazing new volunteer groups and social service groups and all these people who are doing a lot of cool stuff, but I'm not sure how much of it we're working like together. And so if I'm wrong, I'm glad to hear that, but we are looking to pick up a campsite or two at a time. Maureen did send out an email this week about a site that was going to get relocated here in a couple of weeks. We weren't going to pick that site, but we will now for 2 weeks at least, to see if we can at least help smooth the transition from folks there. And then our goal is to pick a campsite that is probably in the greater Hilltop downtown area, and then maybe a second one that might be on the list for being relocated. And our agency, COMP, is committed to being at these sites 5 days a week with the team. We'll have a team of 2 or 3 that's just kind of the site managers, for lack of a better term. Invited Casey today from my agency, who also does data, because we have a couple of data tools that we can use and I want to show. But ultimately, it's just going to take some collaboration. I also met with Pierce County Human Services this week. They have an outreach meeting that currently meets twice a month and is really focused on the point in time count. And I said, hey, can we borrow that time slot if it works for outreach providers? Make it a weekly meeting, 15 or 20 minutes or whatever it needs to be. The county's proposal and agenda, they can take that. And then maybe we can use the other half of it just to do a check-in for the providers. And so a couple of things that, Rob, can I share screen real quick? And sorry if I'm taking longer. I told Rob 10 or 15 minutes at the most, and I asked to jump into the agenda like stealthily. So sorry if I'm messing up everyone's time.
We're used to being flexible, James, and you should have the ability now to save or to share.
So I'm going to share hopefully a website that everybody knows, which is our comprehensive hosts website called piercecountyresources.com. That's our gift, I guess, to the coalition. Everybody hopefully is seeing that now. If you didn't know about it, our goal of this website is, again, one-stop shopping for agencies and, more importantly, for people experiencing homelessness to kind of resource navigate. Casey has agreed to do some work in the near future to update this. So, for example, if you go to our members page at the top right-hand corner, it's literally just links to all the agencies that we've worked with ever. And so if you want to Associated Ministries website, you click there, et cetera, just alphabetical. If you are a provider, a new provider, or a coalition or nonprofit or faith organization, and you're not on here, there's a little button at the bottom that says add your information, and they'll email us to add you. The one that we're going to use for this project is our outreach clinic. So the agency, COMP, we've been listing where we're going and when we're not going and how things are going. Right now, we are stationed the next one to be on October 13th at 10 a.m. We just do one a week. What we're going to do is any agency that is going to participate in our work, we're going to list what you've committed to doing on a schedule here publicly. So we picked this campsite, the one that Maureen has given us, and then we go through a process of learning who wants to be on site when and what services you're offering. And then we will put that location on the map here. But this is our one location right here, you can click. And then we will have a comprehensive list of all the people who are going to these campsites and when. My favorite thing is when a new provider or a new city official or whatever comes to a site and they see the state of affairs and they're like, nobody's doing anything. Well, we're going to do at least one coordinated thing. We're all doing lots of stuff, but this is one way for us to communicate who's going to these sites and when, as well as to actually counter narrative that no, we're doing a ton of stuff. Our agency, COMP, doesn't, we do a lot more response to community complaints. And if somebody is on this website and they scrolled through and they couldn't find what they're looking for, and we get an email every day, maybe at least a couple times a week, where somebody just fills out, my name is whatever, I live behind the Starbucks on 72nd or whatever. I would love to meet somebody for help. Here's my number. So also people email us directly here and we get responses that way. So I kind of dumped a lot on you guys. And I did it quickly. So a couple of things. One, I'm going to put my information into the email, into the chat box if you don't know, to say, hey, I'm a provider or a volunteer, or I'm part of a church group who wants to do something. How can I help? And we'll get you all together. another way that you can connect with us, sorry, my mute somehow, am I still muted?
No, you're not.
Oh, okay, somehow I just got randomly muted. But then the providers outreach meeting that the county runs, which is 11 o'clock on Tuesday, we will be having the next conversation about this. And then everybody who gave me their info, either at that meeting or at this meeting, I'll also put it out on the coalition. I'll take all that info and send the link to whatever we're going to make as our meeting. But basically, the gist of it is we're trying to adopt 1 or 2 encampments at a time, not just for this situation, not just for this relocation, but kind of ongoing forward. And we found that COMP is really good at addressing all the holes in the dam by running around and sticking our finger wherever it is. But sometimes we got to kind of slow down on all the emergency response and just kind of get laser focused. And hopefully with the new future of a bunch of shelters maybe coming online and tiny houses, we will have a group of already working with campers who will be ready to go and maybe move into Angela's safe camping site, for example, or maybe the new Lehigh property that's going to come on next month or whatever. Like we'll have like 38 people, coordinated entry screened. We'll have all their needs kind of either met or at least triaged, and they will be ready to be on the list to move into the next place that opens up. So that's all I got. I'll leave it if anybody has any questions for me and my info in the chat box.
Awesome. Thank you, James. So I see your hand up, Jan, but Monique has had her hand up longer, and then I'll come to you.
Thank you. Good morning, beautiful humans. Good to see you this Friday. So couple of things. The first thing is boots. If you can get boots out there to folks, it'd be wonderful. Everybody keeps asking me for, all the veterans keep asking for combat boots. And so I had a couple of pair that I could hook them up with, but it is muddy, very muddy out there. The site over on the 3500 block of Pacific looks like it's getting smaller, but there's still those few diehard folks out there. And then the update I want to give you guys is on the Fob Hope Veterans Village. So that site has been cleared of all the people who had been camping there now. And we had a site visit on Wednesday with the city and all of the folks that will be doing the work. They tell me they will be done with the infrastructure by the end of this month. So we're looking to open in January. We have a running list of veterans who will move in there from the start. It's not full yet. So if you meet veterans out there on the street, please give them my info so that I can get them on the list. So as soon as we open, we can fill that thing up with 25 people right away. The other good news with that is I was fighting back and forth for showers. And so they are going to give us a shower trailer. We'll have 3 to 4 showers there. And then we'll have to do the porta potties, something to do with the gray water, but at least we'll have showers there. So looking to open in January. And last thing I want to say, this naming of places where homeless are, naming it the jungle is terrible. And we should not ever name a place where people are living the jungle. That means you're calling these folks animals. And I just dislike that so much. So I just had to get that out there, but thank you.
Thank you for that, Monique. Yeah, every city has, unfortunately, that name carries across so many cities. So Jan, you had your hand up.
James, if I'm understanding you, your team will be at an encampment 5 days a week. Okay, then
real quick, what we're trying to do, so we have about 10-ish or outreach workers. So we're going to have a team of my staff, 2 or 3, that'll kind of operate as the on-site case management. And the bigger part is we're going to slowly dedicate staff to organization. So to do this, we kind of we'll do a little bit less of the work, but we're going to organize a little bit more. So we're going to try that. But yeah, our expectation is to at least be on whatever site we identify on a schedule that includes daily work.
Okay, then can you let your team know that there are more options now? We don't have a recognized street medic program yet. We have Richard Dorset, who is frantically asking friends, neighbors, and everybody for medical supplies, and we're getting we have the funding available for some specifically first aid. supply. So Richard Dorset should have a supply of first aid things if you need them. But two other things you need to know. Harry Franke, the director of CMAR, has said he will do telehealth. You can only do telehealth though if you've got a smartphone. So let your folks know that CMAR, which has the contract for healthcare for the homeless, will do telehealth. There's no reason why you can't do it at an encampment, right? So CMAR telehealth option. The second thing is the Tacoma Fire Department CARES program has a triage program that's part of their van. And Garrett's going to have to tell me if that van is going to be functional after the end of the year. But there is a transport van that will pick up folks to go to any medical or healthcare facility. But that same number to call for that van will also do triage. So if your staff doesn't know, if they're seeing somebody and they really don't know if somebody should go now to the ER, get an ambulance, or make an appointment, or do a telehealth visit, call this number. I'm going to give you this number, and you have your staff call that number, and it's the Tacoma Fire Department CARE. So instead of 911, you would call this number, and they can make those arrangements. And Garrett needs to jump in here to tell me if this transport van is funded after December 30th. But I will put the phone number for all of you shelter managers. As far as I'm concerned, you're a shelter manager of the unsheltered. So I'll shut up and I'll put the Tacoma Fire Department triage number.
Yeah, so I need to verify that funding ended up in both the city of Tacoma and Pierce County's budgets, but the intention, and I think the money's there, is to continue the van in perpetuity. So there should be funding for 2022 and beyond. So in the biennial budget for both the city of Tacoma and Pierce County. But I will let you know when I get the final numbers out of the budget processes. I haven't dug into those yet. And I'll throw out, we actually have more money than we need to run that van right now. The big problem is staffing. So the operator that's running the van only has enough staffing to do a certain set of hours. And so we were looking to expand the hours and the days on that van, and it was limited by their capacity to find drivers, which sigh, seems to be a lot of it these days.
Thanks, Garrett. I see Angela, you're raising your hand.
I'm sorry, I cannot find the raise hand button. I have a quick question about the medical care. Patty Ramos used to be a doula for women on the streets in the encampments, and I have not been able to get a hold of her. Amber is under the 705. She's 7 months pregnant. We're trying to get her into a tiny home, but it's a process. But she said that she's not really seeing anyone. Is there anyone who's kind of taking over in Patty Ramos's role of a doula that actually goes down in the encampment?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody speak up at the moment, but if somebody does have that information, could drop it in the chat, that would be great.
Okay, thank you.
And Jan dropped her phone number in, so you can give her a call. Maureen?
So I want to thank James Pogue and CLR because James and I talked through how encampments, while they're not under a sweep, might be differently addressed, ways that we could incorporate all of the volunteers, all the activists, everybody who's going down, along with the professional folks. And we talked that through, and James said, yeah, this sounds, this is something I'm really excited about. And then we got the sweep notice. And so I said, James, convert, please take this sweep. So he did. So thank you. Thanks, CLR. We're going to point everybody to you, James. And we expect to have a copy of the notice later today. I'll put that out for everybody. But thank you. And all of you, whomever you are, if you're working that encampment or you want to, please talk to James.
Thanks, Maureen. And anyone else with items for this week on the streets? Mike?
Yeah, I'll do a real quick one. Tuesday this week, Vallejo, well, it's kind of convoluted. Life Enrichment Group out of Seattle has taken over the operation of Beacon Center. And so I'm going to hit enter here.
You muted yourself, Mike.
Big fingers on a keyboard.
And you did it again.
This is not going to be a good day. So I'll put the contact information for Life Enrichment Group and the phone number for contacting them right now. So they're operating it as we speak.
Great, thank you, Mike. And Jenny, I know you sent me something in the chat. It'd be great if you wanted to speak now.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm going to give a report out a little bit later, but while we're on the streets topic, I just wanted to let everybody know that I've been on leave for a week and a half, but I'm trying to plug back into getting some vaccine outreach for direct to encampments. As you know, that's happened in the past, and then we've had a little lag, and I'm trying to get that going again into the winter. But my ask for this group is if you would put in the chat areas of known current medium, largish encampments, which that's the best place for us to sort of be able to use our model of bringing like a van or something for vaccinations. Not that we don't care about people spread out, but really areas of, like folks have mentioned already, obviously 705, which is a place where we've been, but could return to potentially. And then the new area, the area that's being swept imminently. If you have other areas, please give me in the chat specific addresses or areas that you can. I would really appreciate it. It would help inform my work. So appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. And Jeffrey, you have your hands up.
Good morning, everyone. If you remember, I was reported a death in one of the camps back in September, where somebody had come in and shot one of the campers. Do want to let you know that 2 days ago, someone was arrested. He lived in the community. It was a 21-year-old male. And it was reported by Como TV. Let's be cautious out there. I'm not saying it's an us versus them, but there does have that feeling from time to time. And I'm very concerned for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And any last items for this week on the streets before we move to our first topic? All right, so let's go ahead and move into our first topic for this morning. And that was going to be turning the floor over to Mike Boyster to talk about the final version of the document that was created by the Pierce County Comprehensive Plan to End Homeless, the subgroup that was working on the shelter plan. So Mike, what can you tell us about how that work wrapped up and the plan and what happens next?
Okay, I'm going to, there was a couple meetings. Our last meeting basically was November 18th, but there was another meeting to the city hall. Never can get it right. The Garrett had presented on the 16th. So I'm going to touch base on some of those. And then the comprehensive plan, I think Garrett updated that last night. And so it did not include the shelter work group. So that's a part of it. It is fairly significant, big document. Okay. So I'm going to touch bases on a few things, and I do apologize. I won't be able to stay for the whole meeting. I had someone pass away in Portland that I have to go down and be with the family. So, and Rob, thanks for putting me up there. Basically our goal was to estimate the current need that was out there as far as shelters. And then if you take note of a lot of the stuff, there was a lot of data in which we collected. We're to establish minimum standards, okay, and new shelter system coordination. As James was talking, and what was keep coming back to my mind was that hub that we talked about, and then some estimated costs that some of us were surprised and some were not. Okay, so our team, that the shelter work group, we had 10 meetings that we had. We had 100 people experience in homeless surveys. And then we had 1,645 community members that filled out the survey for our data. And then one of the things that we're waiting on was the request for information, the RFI, and there were 16 of those. And I think, Rob, if you don't have that, I have that now, and we could put it out there for people to see what and who submitted RFIs. It's interesting, okay, to see what the people were submitting as far as RFIs and their estimate of what it would cost for that particular RFI. And the other slide here I have that I'm looking at is the shelter program, the pipeline. Most of you know most of this. Shiloh Baptist, 40 adult men, Lehigh Tiny Homes, move and expansion. There was 20 additional. Brotherhood Rise was 10 additional. Tacoma Rescue Mission, Inclement Weather, 50. Catholic Community Services, 40 today, 80 additional. City of Fife, it says single adult 10 units. I'm not sure where that is, but the City of Fife is really doing some interesting things down there with the homeless. I'm trying to meet with Megan that is with the Parks Department and see what she's doing down there. And then some of the projects, Lehigh, the Comfort Inn, I'm not sure where that is, but there's 94 additional. Then Lehigh Spanaway project, 1.5 million, the funding they have. And then FOB, 20 beds for veterans only. The funding that was presented was existing funding out there to bid. And I'm saying this is accurate information as of the 16th. And Garrett, when I'm done, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, please. Existing funding out there is 6.1 million one-time county ARPA funding. And then there's 5.1 million state document recording fee funding. And then the potential funding that's out there, I don't have dollar amounts, it's one-time county ARPA funding, municipality APR funding, local document recording fundings, and so on and so forth. So one of the kind of the focuses that we had was the permanent housing is the solution. Keep people housed, okay, effective rehousing, more housing, and tailor the intervention to households, behavioral health support. That's pretty much, we've been hearing this for an awful long time, okay? The comprehensive plan, which I don't know if you've got it, but you will get it sometime today, is comprehensive plan to end homelessness. Equity is built into the plan. With the data that we and probably others understand the scale of the need, design a system that to meet that particular need, and then fund the system. And as I was reading last night, funding the system is a challenge because it comes from a number of different places. And yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge. And also one of the other challenges is property. I was talking to one of the Pierce County Council people about where's the property that they can buy so that we can do something. So that is the update that was given to Human Services, Pierce County Human Services. So I think, does anybody have any questions? And I'm gonna lean on Garrett too. If anybody has any questions. I know I went through that really kind of fast, but our report, I think it's like 25 pages for the shelter work group. And when I went through the comprehensive plan and the shelter work group plan, it does appear that things are intertwined or intermingled with the comprehensive plan. So, okay, there am I.
Thank you, Mike. I just dropped the latest copy of the comprehensive plan to end homelessness that that you're referring to, the adequate shelter for all plan that's at the end of the document.
Right.
But I dropped the document in the chat. So that will provide a lot of context. Like Mike said, it's a 25-page report that's at the end of the comprehensive plan. So we open the floor to any questions or concerns. I know it's very deep information, very information rich. It's hard to hear and be able to comprehend it all. Jan?
Oh, I have a question.
Okay, hi Jenna.
Oh, hi, sorry for not being on video with you all. Good to see you though. So thank you all for attending. My question is, and I put it in the text, and I see that maybe someone, Leah Ford, got back to me. I'm interested in the human waste issue with encampments. Right now, my interest or my concern is for the encampment over by Wright Park, which I've seen growing since the summer. It started with 1 or 2 people, and now it's up to 8 or 9. And I'm just wondering, can anyone help me be informed about what I consider the human waste issue?
Thanks, Jenna. And if folks can carry that on in the chat so we can stick to the shelter shelter issue, that'd be great.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jenna. Jan?
Mike, was safe parking pulled out as a line item? And if so, can you address what we might expect? Thank you.
No, that is in the comprehensive plan. I did not see it pulled out. It is still in there.
Yeah, and I'm scrolling through it now to see if I can help answer that question for you, Jan, but there's still a number of safe parking numbers of sites that are mentioned in the plan as part of the solution.
Yeah, I think there's 300 that are kind of identified as the target for Pierce County. And then that's one of those things when you try to do analytics to determine how many safe parking spots Pierce County needs for the number of people living in cars. It's not an easy way to answer it. So that's the 300, which means that could be way too many, that could be way too few. But as we're looking for funding, that's part of the package of things that we want to make sure is funded. And there currently is, I think, 450,000 set aside in the 2022-23 budget to do safe parking specifically. So that's ARPA round 2. some budget proviso that was put in. So it's not part of the other kind of package that was passed last Tuesday.
Thank you, Garrett. Teresa.
So I'm just curious because last year there was such a cutback in how many extra beds could be allowed in the congregate shelters. And I don't know if you have information I don't have about the pandemic closing its doors, or if something else has changed that makes it safe to have that many people together. Also, the other side of that question is there a backup plan if and when things get bad in one of our congregate shelters? That's to you, Mike.
That is a very interesting question. Okay, with COVID and everything, all I can tell you what I'm doing at Beacon, which was I was following all the guidelines. Okay, and we did not have an outbreak. Okay, so wow, that's a really good question. I don't know, Teresa.
Yeah, I think just like Maureen's put in the chat, everybody is awaiting updated guidance from the CDC on congregate shelters and the estimate of how safe it would be to return to pre-COVID types of operating conditions.
So I guess that's my question. Is there is that in the mix, that when that guidance comes out, if the answer is that congregate shelters are not a safe and good solution, although they are an easy and less expensive solution than some others, will this all be revisited and shifted, swiftly shifted, I guess?
Well, Garrett, do you have a comment to that?
Not really. I think that's an area we're failing at as a community. I think that type of kind of top-down management of the shelter system is something we're working towards. So I would say the bad answer right now is that each shelter is responsible for their, continuity of operations, basically, which feels an awful lot like, pushing responsibility where it probably doesn't belong. And so I would say that the short answer is it relies on agencies, and the long answer is that needs to be something that our system is actively managing. And as Maureen kind of goes into the comprehensive plan, I think that some of the structures recommended within that, I think have an awful lot of opportunity to kind of occupy that space. So it seems like a bad answer. So some of the things we do know is that we've built infrastructure. I don't know if anyone's here from Nativity House, but they've constructed, barriers basically to prevent, airborne transmission. So there are some aspects of the existing congregates that have been made safer. Is that better than non-congregate? Of course not, right? But to your point, there is a price savings and a preference of providers to do that type of shelter, and that doesn't mean that's what we need to expand in our community, but that's some words. How about that?
Maureen, I see your hand up, and then Monique.
I think following what Garrett said is that these are the kinds of questions that we have to bring forward and keep on the table in two places. One is all of the emergency plans that the jurisdictions are required to prepare. And the second is Pierce County Human Services is responsible for the sort of intermediary plan, if you will. So I think that, we think about the heat wave, we think about a blizzard. We don't always think about the virus, the next virus, the current variant, all that sort of stuff. And so keep them on the table.
Thanks, Maureen. And Monique.
I was going to say, in terms of barriers, if you go to a public surplus, they have barriers all the time, and they go for really cheap, like $10 for a lot. So just in case you're strapped for money and you want to get some barriers, public surplus is the way to go.
Yeah.
Thank you. And let's shift the conversation to the larger document that encompasses the adequate shelter for all piece. And thank you, Mike, for that update. Let's shift over to Maureen, who was the coalition's representative on the steering committee for the comprehensive plan to end homelessness.
Okay, and thanks, Mike. Thanks for all of your work. And so I sent it out last night or early this morning, I forget which. And I know Rob dropped it in the chat, and I'm sure it'll get posted on our coalition website. Folks, this is a really good document, all right? It is not perfect, but it is really good. And I think it is reflective of all of our work and all of folks who are in this meeting and every other meeting that everybody is in. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I just want to give you a brief overview. One is that the document itself goes to Pierce County Human Services Committee on December 7th, and Garrett and whomever will present it to the committee. And I presume it goes from there to the full council for approval, though I don't actually know all of that. And the steering committee itself will meet again. This is the steering committee around the comprehensive plan to end homelessness. We will meet again December 17th. Those meetings are public, so if you want to attend, you can. And Rob can tell you just how exciting they are because he sat through most of them, and Richard as well. So we will meet again. And so a couple of things that are on our agenda already are what happens to the steering committee. Because we've got some folks who have already said, you know, we're not done. we want to stay active in this. And I asked Garrett to put in what's called the parking lot for discussion of the role of the steering committee and advocacy around this plan. This cannot sit on a shelf somewhere. It's got to be on people's desks. And so I want I'm going to go back to that in a minute. I want to do a really quick overview, but first of all, I want to thank Garrett, who put an enormous amount of time and energy and answering really hard questions and fighting with friends, including me, about what ought to be in there and what it ought to look like. And we all won some and we all lost some, but we all came out with a plan that I think we can all be really proud of. So thank you. Then in terms of an overview, so this is a different kind of a plan, all right? It doesn't have a laundry list of goals. It's got 6 goals. And the first one talks about the system itself. How are we on a countywide basis going to respond to homelessness? How are we going to prevent it? How are we going to address it? And how are we going to keep it from happening again? How are we going to keep people housed, get them rehoused as quickly as possible, and keep them housed? And one proposal that's going to generate a lot of conversation is for some sort of a regional homelessness authority. Not looking exactly like King County, not looking exactly like LA or like others, but what would serve our needs in terms of communication, coordination, prioritization, accountability, all of those sorts of things, all right? Not something that would happen tomorrow, but something to begin talking about and thinking about and working towards. Is this something that will help us? The second thing is what I call the values that embed throughout the entire plan. And we were talking initially about the concept of targeted universalism for a number of reasons, including just sort of like readability. The goal now reads, ensure interventions are effective for all populations. Again, the idea being that we have these specific goals that everybody is housed safely, appropriately, permanently. They have whatever services they need to remain housed or to be rehoused, and to be able to break the work into specific populations that may have specific needs or specific opportunities, like veterans have access to specific resources that non-veterans do not. The disproportionate number of people of color among people who experience homelessness, the special needs of people with chronic medical conditions, with chronic behavioral health conditions, that sort of thing. So just so that everybody is included. And then it's what I call the nuts and bolts. And so goal 3 is to prevent homelessness. This is a big deal because Pierce County's homelessness system did not have a prevention component. We have it now, partly because of the federal money that we got for the emergency rental assistance. And so we can prove, and the combination of the tenant rights that we got in the last legislative session, and the ability of like Tacoma Pro Bono to expand their work, Northwest Justice and others, and so that we can prove that we can keep people housed. And that means they never show up in the homelessness system as literally being homeless. They don't have to become homeless to become helped, in part because we have the resources and now we have the experience. We have the best practices to help us do this. The second one is to goal 4, to address adjacent systems or ensure adjacent systems address the needs of people experiencing homelessness and people at risk. This is all of those health and human services systems out there, civic systems that work for those of us who are housed. And sometimes it's hard enough to make them work if you're housed, but hardly ever really work for people who are either at risk for homelessness or are themselves homeless. And not to create a homeless mental health system or a homeless substance use system or a homeless whatever system, but to make those systems work. And we can put a ton of bridges in, human bridges, navigators, all that sort of stuff, get people on board so that policies start to change. But to make those systems, we already pay for them, so we ought to make them work. All right. Goal number 5 is to meet the immediate needs of people experiencing homelessness. And here the real change is that we're saying we want to move to what we understand as build for zero. What we're calling functional zero is, how do we help how do we expect and how do we help our current shelter system, our current outreach system, begin with that first contact point of, here's safe shelter for you right now, and here's a potential permanent housing solution for you. And so we start thinking differently and we start acting differently about how we engage with people wherever they come in, wherever they are. And it's not going to be something that's a cookie cutter. It's going to be reflective of the work that Mike talked about earlier, and it's going to be reflective of the work that we all continue to learn from, basically. And then the last part is to goal 6 is to expand the permanent housing system to meet the need. All right, we kept housing in this plan front and center at the beginning and at the end. And I think we should all be incredibly proud of that. The county listened to us. All right, housing solves homelessness. Services keep people from becoming homeless, and they meet people's immediate needs if they are homeless, and they keep people housed once they are rehoused. And so, so my suggestion is read it, pick out the points that you'd like more information on, that you think ought to be, you know, looked at, discussed, or whatever. Make it live for each of us. And let's talk about, not today, but let's talk about after we hear what the Human Services, County Human Services Committee says, what councils, both the city and the county say. Let's talk about, is this a plan that the coalition should formally endorse? My own feeling is yes. I think it's important to go on record. But equally important is, what are the pieces that we can take now and begin working on to inform our work? We've got Garrett at the county, all right? That's a big deal. We could use Biden's language when he was with Obama, but anyway, it's a big deal. All right. So how do we help Garrett do the work we know he wants to do that we want done? So again, I want to thank you all for trusting me to represent the coalition. And I really want to thank Garrett for the work. And everybody else who sat through meetings, came in. A lot of you joined the subcommittees, and even that, subcommittees weren't planned. The steering committee was going to show up once a month for 2 hours and listen to a report of staff work. And we said, well, no, actually, we're not going to do that. That's not why we're here. We want to participate. And that meant an incredible increase in the staffing that Garrett was expected to provide. And he did that. And a lot of you participated in those committees in person or virtually or by reading what came out, sort of stuff. So, and those made a difference, I'm convinced. So anyway, that's it, folks.
Thank you, Maureen. So does anybody have any questions? I think Maureen has set up what we wanted to talk about in our breakout conversations very well. But if there's any general questions for Maureen before we go into breakouts, raise your hand. Yeah, I see you, Monique. No?
That was really a mistake. But what I was going to say, though, with this plan and all this stuff, right? The difficulty that I have as a small nonprofit, we are out here in Pierce County doing this work. We don't have any money to do this work. We just do it, right? And I missed out on the latest request for proposal from Pierce County, which is due today, because I just don't know how to do all this stuff on grants. Are there people that can help these small nonprofits learn how to gather what we need to gather for these grants and be able to write for them? Because I mean, this money was good for outreach, but I just was struggling trying to get through it, and I missed the question and answer period and just blah.
Yeah, I don't know if you have a response to that, Garrett.
I think that's our responsibility in the county is to make it possible for the people that are capable and want to do the work to be able to do it. And capacity has to do with a lot of different things. It has to do with cash flow. Like there's ways, and we don't think that way at the county. Like that's new. And so it's something that we're going to have to do because it's how we're going to serve our community correctly. And so I think it's going to be a learning process. So how to get a hold of me, like talk a little bit about, you can get me 15 minutes of like, this is why this process failed for me. How can you, these are ways you could have made this process work better for me. And I think we're ready to, as a government, right, to really change and flex in how we do things. So I'm optimistic.
I say, Jared, that Anne Marie, I believe her name is, she said that she would, when it closes, she can answer the questions for me. But of course, too late, right? We're out here struggling, trying to do this work and got no backing. But I do appreciate that she is going to try to tell me after the fact. But there needs to be some help for us that, I'm like the ED, the finance person, the human resources manager that, and so I just need help with that.
Yeah, and I think that may be through, and this Maureen probably can answer this better, but it may be through us funding a organization that can provide that kind of technical assistance, right? So it's probably not the role of the county to help people apply for the funds they have listed out, but it can be our role to fund that activity so that somebody does it, which sounds very bureaucratic. But in other words, like someone that's, helps make that happen. So I'm anxious to figure out how we can do it, right? So there's little walls we create that are appropriate. And it's like, but that can't be why we don't help fix the problem, right? That's just part of the complexity of fixing it, not why we can say we just can't do it. Sorry, right? That's the wrong answer.
Yeah, thanks, Garrett.
Your hand's up, Maureen.
Yeah, following up on what Garrett said. So it's a perfect example of when I said, the pieces of this plan that we can pick up and start immediately. That's a perfect example. So we have a structure in the coalition that we've got a Friday morning meeting. We've got the ability for the practice of using breakout sessions. That's a question that could be in a breakout session. What does your organization need to apply for funding or to participate in expansion or whatever? So, and everything's open. Shoot Rob an email about the question you'd like used in breakout around this. Bring it forward in the chat. Bring it forward in the open conversation kinds of sort of for the good of the order. I worked hard to get capacity money in on the housing development side for the nonprofits in both the city and the county, and did not work hard on just basic capacity building. Had some conversations with a couple of organizations about how they might do that. But I mean, that could be a topic for a Friday. It could be a topic for a small working group. So use what we have. If your organization falls in that package, then reach out and, we can do a one-time meeting, whatever. It's easier for the county if they've got something that they can attend, or the city, same thing, that they can attend and hear what is needed, or that they can get a list of what is needed. That doesn't mean individual organizations shouldn't go directly, but if they can get a collective list to work over, like we did with the shelters and the health department, and the list around the after hours, phone call for Q&I and all that stuff. I mean, we got a response off of that. So use the structures we've got.
Thank you, Maureen. So I know we are over time on our agenda, and I hope that those that are government partners are willing to hang out while we continue through the agenda. We typically would go to government reports at 10, but I think I want to just motor ahead and have us spend 10 minutes in small groups, considering the question. And I see your note, Valerie, so I'll make sure we go to you right after we return from this. So let's spend 10 minutes considering the question of what do we think should happen next with this regional plan to end homelessness.
Rob,
and before we go into a breakout, go ahead, Garrett.
So two things that might be useful to know is that my position continues and my role is implementing this plan. And so the question would be, there's a lot of things in it. What should I be prioritizing? Right. So that's, feedback. And the second thing is I'll have a full-time data person that I'm hiring at the start of the year. And so if you're interested in the data side of things, where should we be prioritizing that work as well? So just throw those out, that those are resources we'll have to implement this. So keep that in mind.
Great. And Berta, I see you have your hand up before we go to breakouts. And if you're speaking, you're muted.
Currently. Oh, no, that was an accident.
Oh, okay. Okay,
all right,
no problem.
thank you.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put everyone in small breakout rooms. The idea here is just to share some ideas, and if somebody could take notes in each breakout room regarding what they think should happen next. What should we tell Garrett to do next is the question. So let's spend 10 minutes and we'll come right back to hear from Valerie from Pierce County. Welcome back, everybody. I'm sure that was too short of a time period to talk about what should happen next, but I do urge if someone from each of your rooms did take notes, please drop those into the chat so we can pass them along to Garrett and tell him what to do. And and I do want to shift very quickly to juggle our agenda a little bit. So typically at 10 o'clock we would do government updates. I know that Valerie wants to do a report on Pierce County rental assistance and has a time conflict. So why don't we switch to the government updates, and then we will resume our agenda when we get through those. So Valerie, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you hear me okay, Rob?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I'm going to stay off camera because it has been a rough internet down here on the KP for the last 2 weeks. Verizon's tower went down and we're all struggling even more than we normally do. So I'm Valerie Almany with Pierce County Human Services. Thanks for giving me just a couple minutes. I won't need much more. So with our rental assistance update, our Department of Treasury funds, we were originally awarded 20.7 million. We have spent all but 1.1 million of that. So 94.3% is spent. What we mean by spent is checks cut to landlords, check cut to utility companies. So we have actually already submitted our request to Treasury for $40 million more dollars. We're just waiting to hear if Treasury will approve. That deadline was the 30th, but we submitted about a week early. So we're hoping to hear about that. They don't actually tell you you've been awarded. They just drop it into the bank account, which is a little weird. With our TRAP dollars, which is our state funding, we were originally awarded 32 million, then we got a $10 million extra bucket, so 43 million. We've already spent 38.9 million of that, which is 90.14%. So we are eligible for our TRAP 2.0 dollars, which is $36 million. We have already allocated all of that out to our 9 amazing nonprofits who are already working those dollars now. So we'll have updates on those percentages of spent here soon. And then our American Rescue Plan funds, we had allocation 1, which was just over 9 million. We've already spent 3.7 million of that, so 41%, and that's with Helping Hand House. But we already received our allocation of American Rescue Plan 2, which has been awarded to 4 of our amazing nonprofits who are spending those dollars as well, which is just over 14 million. Once we get through TRAP 2.0, we will receive our ERAP 2.0, so which is all state dollars as well. So a couple of things I want to clear up in the community. One, Pierce County rental assistance is out of funds. I don't know where this keeps coming from. I don't know where $100 million equals no money. So please just tell, that's not true. It's not accurate. 2, we aren't accepting new applications. Also not true, not accurate. The portal is open. We will close our portal when we do a portal shift, but we're coming up with backup options for folks to still apply, as well as making sure we're very public and transparent of when that will happen. So we're working through all of that as we go, and that we are not doing in-person appointments, and that's not true as either. We are in person. We will be still going to the libraries. We are taking 10 days off in January because I'm going on a cruise and I will not be working those 10 days of January, the 8th through the 18th. I will not even answer my phone. So not except for my kids, but that's it. And so other than that, everything's functioning normal. We are still going full force, 100%. And so please just dispel those as you hear them, because none of them are accurate. We work very closely every single moment of every single day with Tacoma Pro Bono and the Center for Dialogue and Resolution to prevent evictions. And we are just in the throes of all of it. So those are my updates. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much. And
Thank you, Valerie.
Questions if you have any.
Yeah, any quick questions for Valerie? There's a lot of clapping.
I would just like to say, Valerie, you deserve that vacation and you should absolutely go and not answer your phone.
Thank you. Thank you. We are celebrating our honeymoon. We only got married 4 years ago, Jenny, so we are very, very behind. Our anniversary, both our birthdays, and I will graduate from my second master's in 3 weeks. So we're throwing it all into one big bucket and going for 10 days. Yes, I'm so excited.
Awesome. All right, so let's shift over to Ann from Pierce County, who's stepping in for Jeff Rogers, who's off today.
Hi, it's actually Anne Marie, but you know how
Oh,
registrations chop things off. So anyway, glad to be here. Just a couple of announcements from Pierce County homeless programs this morning. So we have a new homeless program supervisor, Delmar Algie. He started last week, so you'll probably start seeing his face around more. So if you do, please welcome Delmar. We're really glad to have him. Second, the 2022 pit count planning is underway. The count will be on Thursday night, Friday morning, that's cute, January 27th and 28th next year. Volunteer registration is open. Anyone is encouraged to volunteer. The 2022 pit count is important because we did not do a point in time count in 2021, and unsheltered homelessness has been very visible in 2021. So I have a registration link here, which I will put in the chat. So if you want to volunteer, you can click the link to register to volunteer. Feel free to share that with anyone who might be interested as well. And then last, we have a hotel sheltering, rapid rehousing, and street outreach notice of funding availability out right now, and applications are due by the end of the day today. That's 4:30. Applications have to be completely received by 4:30 or we cannot accept them. So if you're working on that or any of your colleagues are today, be mindful of the deadline. We just want to encourage people to get those submitted. And that's all. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Anne Marie. All right, so I will mention the city of Tacoma was not able to send someone to today's meeting. As you may know, the community and neighborhood services offices has some positions open currently, and one of the positions is the one that usually comes to these meetings. So what I will do is I'm going to paste the link to the city council study session from Tuesday, where staff gave an update to Tacoma City Council regarding the current status of their homelessness planning efforts. And the presentation itself includes, which the slides I believe Maureen sent to the entire coalition mailing list. But it provides an update on current shelter space available, new shelter space that's expected to open in the coming weeks, including the shelter that Monique Brown is going to be opening, are all included in the presentation. So I will put that in the chat, and there's that link. And let's shift over to an update from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department.
Hi again, everybody. Happy Friday. Let's see. I've been gone for a little while, so this week has been all about getting back in the swing of things for me. It seems like it should take less than 5 days to get back in the swing of things, but here we are. So isolation and quarantine updates, continuing to work on our capacity around that. As of this morning, we have 16 beds available. We are still waiting on a new adult family home to come on board, but I believe that will add 4 or 5 additional beds when that happens, and hopefully that will be soon. I've been told that it's just a matter of getting signatures on things. So, so we continue to be doing okay on the capacity there. We do have an outbreak, unfortunately, at a shelter at Alzheimer, Give Me a Chance shelter. But our outbreaks team and testing teams are working closely with them. I'm keeping an eye on when they will be out of outbreak status so we can continue with vaccine clinic planning with that, that site. See, I don't know if anyone is on from our testing team. I'll let them add anything to this that they would like, but just keeping a close eye on the new variant that we have. And we know that testing is effective in identifying positives regardless of the variant. So our testing team is working on that and working with shelters to get folks set up to do their own testing, but also in cases of outbreak or if there are other needs, the testing team can work more directly with folks. They've done a great job there. And then immunizations, we just, you know, I'm sure folks are concerned about Omicron, the new variant. We don't have any cases in Washington yet, but probably it's just a matter of time. Our best defense is still vaccination. So we are working hard to create more and more opportunities for that. We've got shelter events, planning through Q1 has begun. So I'm working with Ambulance, our contractor, on continuing those sites into the new year, which is exciting. Also revisiting direct encampment efforts, which is why I asked folks on today's call to chat to me with locations. I want to get a little bit more robust effort underway there. Lots of community-based opportunities to get vaccinated. lots of demand out there with boosters and childhood vaccines, but there are more and more opportunities as well. So I'll drop our link in the chat where you can find information there. Be advised that every adult is eligible for a booster at this point. So please go get vaccinated, get your booster if it's been more than 6 months since you had Pfizer or Moderna, or more than 2 months since you had J&J. And that's it for me. What questions do folks have?
Feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions for Jenny. All right, I'm not seeing any at this moment.
Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate you all.
Thank you. And our last government update, I know Ivan just stepped off, but I'm not sure if we have anybody from Pierce County Department of Emergency Management still on the call. If so, feel free to unmute yourself and offer an update. Okay. Yeah, so we may have lost some folks because of the shifting of our agenda. So let's move on to the next item in the agenda. I'd like to have Richard Dorset offer some context for this conversation that he's hosting coming up on Monday. So Richard.
Thank you. About a month ago, I attended a meeting of 5 state agencies that presented how they are responding to homelessness, and I found it very useful. So I thought, what if I hosted a meeting with 5 thoughtful people that are not professionally engaged in homelessness? And so on Monday, I'm hosting a meeting with some 5 people that have been briefed up on homelessness to hear ideas that they may have that are not part of the normal conversation. So you're all welcome to join on that. I think Rob may be posting the agenda announcement. But I've invited Julie Anderson, Dennis Flanagan, Jim Waldo, Dina Runga from the Evergreen State College, and Linda Isham, formerly of Pierce County. And we'll be getting together on Monday morning from 9 to about 10:15 to discuss this topic. And I'm looking forward to hearing what they may think from their perspectives about this topic. So real briefly, that's what it's about. And you certainly are all welcome to listen in and hear what these folks have to say. That's a brief synopsis. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, and that was so brief that I didn't get a chance to paste the entire agenda here. And so if you give me just a moment, I'll paste at least the start of this agenda into the chat. Apologies. All right, so that at least gives you a flavor of the content for the meeting on Monday, and the link is posted above. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So let's shift to the next item on the agenda, and that's Jenna, yes.
I apologize. If I cut and paste that link, is that a live link for me to go into the meeting or not? Don't you have to have
well, I don't want to click on the link since I'm sitting in this
I'll
meeting.
take it offline.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That'd be great. And Rosemary, I see you have your hand up.
I just had a brief reminder. I didn't say that at the beginning, but this chat can be saved if you want to. It'll show up in your documents, and it also is saved on our webpage, but not quite immediately. So for the resources that are here, that's a good way to keep track of them.
Thank you for that reminder, Rosemary. So let's shift over to an advocacy update, and I'll invite Maureen Howard.
All right, well, thank you. Okay, so there are many kinds of advocacy, but rule number 1 is always the same: show up. And I know that it's been a struggle for some of the folks in the coalition. How much advocacy should we do? How much should we hear about? What should we do? So this is kind of where I am right now. I'm trying to figure out a way for those of you who want to know more and want to do more as advocates to be able to do that. A way for the coalition itself to have a place at the tables that it wants to be at or should be at, and how I can best be of service to you and what it is you want to do either individually or organizationally or collectively. So if you have ideas, shoot me an email and let me know. But in the meantime, here's our real world. All right. The city of Tacoma is hosting a community engagement meeting Monday night at 5:30, Rob, I think. And this is about the Community Vitality and Safety Committee's work on what we call the no camping ban. Rob got some knowledge that it is in our best interest to be at that meeting at the beginning, because there's supposed to be a poll. All right, so even if you can't stay for the whole thing, go to the beginning. We've put it out on the listserv once. Rob will drop it in the chat. We'll put it on the listserv again as just a standalone item, so you've got the link handy. All right. The coalition does not have a position on the city of Tacoma's camping, no camping ordinance. We never took a vote on it. All right. Number two, city of Tacoma strikes again. And 3 council members, Toms, Hunter, and McCarthy, have brought forward a new no camping ban ordinance, which will have its first reading on Tuesday, the 7th city council meeting. It's called Pathways to Shelter, I think. Clever. Public comment can be made because that's a first reading of the ordinance. My suggestion is our public comment be that it not be considered because the city already has an ordinance that they're considering in Community Vitality and Safety Committee. I'm going to try and reframe advocacy in terms of emerging issues, things that I see happening, and some of these may go someplace and some of them may not. Number one, just on the picking up after Jenny, I'm going to be a lot clearer on the vaccines, folks. Get vaccinated and get your booster. You, your volunteers, your staff, your clients, your guests, your friends, your family, everybody. It is our single defense. We know the cash cards work for people who are experiencing homelessness. If you think cash cards that work for your staff, your volunteers or whatever, let me know and I'll try and figure out where we can get them. But we absolutely have to do this. All right. I mean, we have to do this. Number two. So the Evergreen State College is hosting the Evergreen Encampment After Action Review on Monday, December 13th from 3 to 4:30. I've confirmed the agenda with Dean Marcia Tatarunga, and I will put something out this week on it to the entire listserv as sort of a heavy duty save the date. It'll be the link. Evergreen is the Evergreen State College is handling the technology part. It'll be their Zoom link, and there will not be pre-registration required. They have an unlimited capacity. We will, and the draft agenda will be there so you can see. We're structuring this in a way that we want the people who actually participated in responding to that sweep, that period of October 12th, when we first got the notice, through November 12th, and the people who lived in the encampment, to the extent that we can make it possible for them to participate, to basically respond to a carefully structured kind of agenda. What are 1 or 2 things that worked? What are 1 or 2 things that could have worked better? And the 3 topic areas are communications. The second one is the services that were provided and the coordination of those services. And the third is how well we helped people move to safe shelter or even to permanent housing. And then a final one about what are the things that we want to take forward. And then what we had agreed upon initially with this coalition is to bring back recommendations that you might want to consider in reviewing and potentially revising the coalition statement on sweeps. So this sweep is the work of Sound Transit, and we're waiting on a copy of the notice. When that copy comes out, I'll post it. James talked about 25th and Portland Avenue. The other emerging issue is around the mobile homes. So this has come forward in terms of foreclosures, in terms of the distraint sale, and now the sale of the park in Puyallup. And I am really pleased to tell you that the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department, Adam Reichenberger, the housing policy coordinator, has agreed to take point on getting Spanish-speaking case managers and advocates into the families in that park. There are 44 households, about 150 people. There are 40 school children in the Puyallup district schools. We don't know how many are younger than that and are not in school. We do know that the notice went out to internally in the health department, and Spanish-speaking case managers came forward and said, yes, we'll do this. And we also know that the Puyallup School District wants to be involved, and I've gone out to some Spanish-speaking folks I know in the Puyallup area about their interest and involvement. But the best news for me is that Adam's going to take the lead. I've met with Tacoma Pro Bono about the legal. I will meet with Northwest Justice this afternoon. I'll meet with the Northwest Immigrant Rights folks, lawyers, and hopefully within a week, everybody will have sorted out that there will be a legal lead. And then we'll just keep going forward. We do not want 150 people from that park homeless. We don't want them homeless because they're taking the relocation package. And if you want to know about mobile home relocation, we can do a separate kind of meeting just on that. The next thing is the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance will have its state legislative agenda confirmed and public sometime next week. And I'll put that out on the listserv. And I will bring to the coalition requests that we do as we have done in prior years, that we endorse that state legislative agenda. And the drafts all looked pretty good and included actually support for frontline staff. So that, and my understanding is that there is a bill around that. I haven't seen the bill yet. At the federal level, I don't have a clue. If Build Back America goes through, we get more resources that help us not just in housing, but help us in those aligned systems, or should be aligned systems. And so I think we're just waiting. So that's it. Thank you. Oh yeah, and there's a new column on destinycity.org. If you want to know what I think about how we make our wealth on housing, feel free.
Thank you, Maureen. All right, so let's shift on to some of our regular update items that we have toward the end of every meeting. And thank you, Timothy, for the link to Dignity City in the chat. So let's go to Jan Rumback. Any updates from the Safe Sites for All committee?
Oh, yes. Even though the pilot project funding is over, we are still active thanks to the goodwill and brilliance of Paula Anderson and folks at New Hope. 4 active sites. Paula reports that the 4th one is operational. We've got a direct link for bridge funding to help us through what Garrett recognizes as a real barrier to getting government money, and that is you put your money up front first, and then the government may pay you later. So we're doing some workarounds around that. And we're just real pleased that the county has included safe parking in its future planning. Paula, did you want to say anything?
Nope, that was good, Jan, thanks.
Very succinct. All right, thank you to both of you and to that committee. Do we have any coalition committee updates for this week? Anything, Rosemary, that comes to mind?
I was trying to get my hand raised there. So yes, just briefly, the Race and Equity Committee is preparing an outreach flyer at the request of members of the group that could be used with a variety of organizations or individuals that we may all want to share what the coalition is about and what kind of resources are available, and also to invite people who may have other resources and ideas to join and amplify the voices that we have here. So we're hoping to have that ready soon and have the whole group take a look at it and see if it would be a useful tool. So that's for the committee. And I think unless there's another committee, I could talk about the forum briefly at this time as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
So on December 17th, we are hosting a forum for newly elected municipal officials in Pierce County. Last year, we had a candidate forum for the folks running for the positions at that time. And we want to replicate the process somewhat, but give an opportunity for all of us to talk to people who got newly elected as mayors of either small or large communities and are on city councils in various places. And so we've sent out invitations to 34 folks who have not been in the position before, and we've received responses from 10 folks so far, only one of whom was unable to attend. So our plan is to have conversations between 9:15 and 10:15 with all of us. And the reason I'm saying it today, not only to announce it, but to ask you to think about if you were able to talk to officials newly elected in a small town or in your larger town, what would you want to tell them about the problems that you have been addressing or the issues that you care about? We want them to be informed about the issues of homelessness and to think about ways that local governments can participate in the work that we're all doing. So that's the thing for now. And I'm looking for a few more people willing to facilitate for those sessions. We'll have probably about the same number as we had today. So if I haven't already asked you to do it and you're willing to, just let me know. And I'll reach out to you and see if we can get you the information you need to help that group do a good job.
Thank you, Rosemary. And next on our agenda is just an open time on the agenda for anybody who has announcements, things that would be good for the full group to know about. What kind of good trouble can we make today?
Good morning, everyone. It's Sheila over at Goodwill. Happy Friday. Happy first weekend in Advent for those of you who celebrate the season. Couple of things. Number one is Kelly sent an email this morning to the full coalition list about the upcoming, I think it's called Hire Pierce County Next Gen. There's an internship program. It's good for, I think, almost a year for those that are 16 to 24 years of age. I am sending the link. Oh, there we go. I just sent the link to the coalition. If you have clients or guests that are of that age bracket and are looking for a paid internship program. And then the second thing, I put it in the beginning of the chat, is I have a source that has men's warm clothing size XL and 2XL. So anybody who is interested in that, there's quite a bit of it. Please reach out to me on my cell phone number and I will connect up with you off the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. And if you want to drop your cell phone number again in the chat, that would be great. Rosemary.
I know we thanked everyone earlier, but I'm really quite overwhelmed with gratitude for all the work that our representatives have done with the Pierce County plan to end homelessness. And I especially, while Maureen and Mike have really represented us really wonderfully, I also want to just to call out how Barrett's consistent and persistent push for this to happen has just made a really big difference, and I think has the potential to make a very big difference as we move forward. So very much thanks to all of you, and I think a good clap for everybody would be in order.
Anyone else with items for the good of the order? One thing I will note is I changed my background to the little snowflakes there on my video as a little bit of symbolism. This weekend, it looks like we're about to move into some more seasonable cold winter weather. So I just want to offer my appreciation to those who are going out and providing direct help to folks on the streets, and know that I think it's universal that we're all thankful for your time and effort helping those who are trying to get by on the streets as it starts getting colder. And it's going to be on all of us to advocate and work to keep people safe as we start to get cold here. Jeffrey.
Get unmuted here. I have a third source now for these packets. Another woman has stepped up and said, I want to make these. So if you need them for the campers as you go into outreach, let me know. I'll put my email in the chat. They really are handy and sturdy, and hopefully will keep their ID and important papers close to them and not in some backpack that gets lost or stolen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And Dion.
Hi, leave it to me to ask to speak when I'm muted. So I'm with St. Vincent de Paul, and I know somebody was looking for me earlier. I'm not sure who it was, but I did get a message.
That was Maureen.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Maureen. I sent you a text. I just wanted to touch base with everybody who's referring people to us. I'm going to drop my email address into the chat box. If you have a referral for a motel, and you are a provider or an outreach worker, it is definitely best to send me an email instead of calling the helpline. The helpline is absolutely slammed with calls right now from just, community members. So like I said, best way to get a hold of somebody if you have a direct referral is to reach out to me by email. And I also have a pre-vetting sheet that I will gladly send to anybody who is looking for a motel resource or has questions about how we vet people for motels. So email address in the chat. And if you have any questions, please reach out.
Thank you, Dion. And I see Jan with her hand up.
Dion, I'm aware that you St. Vincent de Paul helps those who are medically fragile being discharged from hospitals. Do you support more than that particular population? Is it more than just coming out of a hospital or emergency department setting?
Oh yeah, so we support anybody with a qualifying emergency circumstance. We do emergency basic needs. Shelter is a basic need. So it's not just people coming out of hospitals or people who are currently ill or people who have injuries, people who can't stay to shelter for any reason. It's cold out. We've got families in cars. I get a lot of referrals from different shelters in the area who don't have room for people. Gosh, I can't even. Associated Ministries and Catholic Community Services send people over here all the time, just as kind of like a bridge between when they do their intake and when they can be placed somewhere. So lots of different reasons we might place somebody in a motel.
Is food provided and or case management?
No case management. We take the referrals, we pay for the rooms, but some of the questions we ask are, if somebody is referred by, for example, the HOT team, I ask very specifically, what services are going to be set up for this person when they leave this motel, so that we know we're not just giving a motel voucher and then sending somebody back out to the street. So I ask questions about that, and I like to gather information about that and maybe resource a person, but we do not provide direct case service or case management at all.
Thank you, Dion, and thanks for what you do. All right, so let's wrap up our meeting with a little bit of time. If anybody has feedback from today's meeting, specifically feedback about what went well, what did we miss, what should we spend more time on next week? please let me know now. And you can do it in the chat if you feel more comfortable, or you can always email me. I will put that in the chat now as well if you want to send me any kind of feedback on how the meetings are going. All right, so not seeing anything there. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Maureen, go ahead.
Fiona was going to put her email in the chat. I think I missed it. Oh,
there you
there
go.
It is.
Like magic.
That's right.
Hey, Rob, this,
yes.
I say this faster than I can type it. Maybe, you know, for me or maybe for other new people, I don't know, but you know, there's so many people, and could people write their name and then their organization? Because so many of you are with organizations, and then you just start talking and I miss what you said about your organization. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great feedback.
Just a thought, just a thought. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And Sue, you bring up a great point, because that's one of the things we've consistently heard from people who join the coalition meetings. First few meetings, it takes time just to figure out even who everybody is and what everybody is doing. It's one of the reasons that the Race and Equity Committee had asked for kind of a one-page introductory document about the coalition. So I definitely appreciate that feedback. All right, so I want to wish everybody a good, safe weekend, and thank you for coming today, and we'll look forward to seeing you all next week. We will, if you have an interest in helping plan next week's meeting, please, you can stay after this meeting if you have a little bit of time. We're going to take like a 5-minute break, and then we'll move into planning for next week. But thank you, everybody. Safe travels.